Rain lashed down, blurring the already grim landscape. I pulled the collar of my coat tighter, the chill biting through even the thick fabric. First day, they said. Easy money, they said. They didn't mention the prison would be on an island like this, shrouded in mist and smelling of salt and fear. The ferry groaned its way back to the mainland, leaving me standing on the rain-slicked dock. My stomach churned. Not from the sea, but from the foreboding silhouette against the storm-tossed sky. The prison. The clanging of the metal gate as it closed behind me echoed in the emptiness. No turning back now. Warden's gravelly voice echoed in my head. Penitentiary X, maximum security for the worst of the worst. He hadn't needed to elaborate. Everyone knew what lurked behind these fortified walls. Creatures of nightmare, things that went bump in the night and ripped apart whatever they found. I trudged uphill, the heavy steel door at the end of the path looking more like the entrance to hell than a place of work. Taking a deep breath, I steeled myself. First shift jitters. Everyone got them. Just had to get through the night, collect the paycheck. Easy. The guard at the security checkpoint, a mountain of a man with a face etched in stone, barely glanced at my ID. "New meat, huh?" he grunted, his voice raspy as if he hadn't used it in years. "Try not to get eaten alive." He chuckled humorlessly, handing me a map. "Cell Block C, your station." His eyes, cold and hard, lingered on me for a beat too long. And good luck, I didn't need it. I wasn't planning on getting close enough to anything in this place to need luck. The air inside was thick with the metallic tang of blood and something else, something primal and unsettling. The corridors were lined with steel bars, each cell holding a darkness so profound it felt like staring into the abyss. The occasional growl, guttural and chilling, sent shivers down my spine. Every instinct screamed at me to turn tail and run, but I pressed on. Cell Block C. The sign hanging askew seemed to mock me. Taking another deep breath, I stepped inside. The stench hit me first, a putrid mix of decay and something sickeningly sweet. Then the sounds. Rattling chains, guttural growls, and something scraping against concrete. It took all my willpower not to drop the flashlight and run. Shadows danced in the flickering light, twisting and turning into monstrous shapes. I could feel eyes on me, watching my every move. The first cell I passed held a creature that defied description, a mass of writhing tentacles and teeth, its single eye pulsating with malevolent hunger. Further down, something vaguely humanoid, its skin flayed and muscles exposed, pounded against the bars, its roar echoing through the corridor. Each step was a descent into a nightmare, a parade of horrors that seemed ripped straight from the darkest recesses of my mind. And yet amidst the terror, a strange sense of fascination took hold. These were monsters, yes, but they were also prisoners, trapped and tormented. What crimes could they have possibly committed to deserve such a fate? Finally, I reached my station, a small fortified booth at the end of the cell block. The previous guard, a wiry man with haunted eyes, shoved a mug of lukewarm coffee into my hand. "Don't let them smell your fear," he rasped, his voice barely a whisper. "They can sense it." Before I could even ask what he meant, he was gone, swallowed by the shadows. Alone now, the full weight of my situation crashed down on me. I was trapped in a cage with the most dangerous creatures imaginable, responsible for their containment. The monitor flickered erratically, showing grainy images of the horrors lurking just beyond my steel cage. A low hum, almost imperceptible at first, began to resonate through the prison, setting my teeth on edge. This wasn't going to be an easy night. This was going to be a very, very long night. The coffee tasted like battery acid, but it was hot. The monitor flickered, showing cells with unspeakable horrors. A voice crackled over the intercom, startling me. "Harrigan, report to the warden's office now." The warden. A ghost story among the guards. Never seen him, only heard that voice. A voice that could silence a room. I navigated the maze of corridors. Each footstep echoed, punctuated by distant growls. The warden's office was at the end of the corridor. Taking a deep breath, I knocked. The door hissed open, revealing a dimly lit room. Behind a steel desk sat a figure shrouded in shadow. "You're late, Harrigan." I stepped inside, the door sliding shut behind me. "Sorry, sir." The warden leaned forward, the light catching his face for a fleeting moment. Scarred, weathered, with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of 1,000 nightmares. "This facility," he began, "houses the most dangerous creatures on Earth. Things that would make the devil himself tremble." He gestured to the blueprints on the wall. "This," he continued, "is the nerve center, the control room. One man in there can monitor every inch of this place." He fixed me with a stare. "And that man, Harrigan, is you." "Me? Alone, responsible for containing an army of nightmares? Don't worry," the warden chuckled. "We have safeguards. The creatures are tagged, monitored, controlled." He pointed to a panel on his desk. "One touch and I can fry every last one of them." His words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken threat. He wasn't just talking about the monsters. He was talking about me. I spent hours memorizing the control panel, my head spinning with jargon. The warden warned me, "Stay vigilant, Harrigan, they can smell fear." He didn't need to tell me twice. The fear was a knot in my stomach, the hum intensified, vibrating through the floor. I focused on the monitors, creatures pacing, eyes glowing. The hum grew louder, whispering doubts. Outside a storm raged, the wind howled, rattling the bars. Something wasn't right. This wasn't just a storm, this was something sinister. Then it happened. The hum escalated into a deafening roar. Lights flickered and died, plunging the control room into darkness. The monitors went haywire, static erupting across the screens. Then the alarms. A high-pitched shriek, splitting the air, bouncing off the steel walls. Red lights flashed, bathing the room in an infernal glow. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it, what the warden had warned me about. I fumbled for the emergency lights, my hands shaking. As the room flickered back to life, the intercom crackled to life. It was the warden, his voice tight with urgency. "Harrigan, report!" Before I could answer, another voice cut in, panicked, breathless. "Sir, we have multiple containment breaches. They're loose. They're all loose." The warden's voice, cold and hard, cut through the chaos. "Seal the facility. Initiate Lockdown Protocol Omega. Lockdown Protocol Omega." The word sent a chill down my spine. I had read about it in the manual. A last-ditch effort to contain a catastrophic breach. It meant only one thing. No one was getting out of here alive. I watched in horror as the monitors flickered back to life, revealing scenes of unimaginable carnage. Creatures rampaged through the corridors, tearing through steel and concrete. The screams of the guards echoed through the speakers. On screen 4, I saw it. The massive tentacles and teeth. It latched onto a guard, its eye glowing with malevolent glee. The blood, a sickening shade of green, splattered against the camera lens, but the screams, the sickening crunching of bone continued. I slammed my fist against the console, helpless rage coursing through me. Those were good men out there, men with families, lives, and now they were just food for these things. I had to do something. I had to help. But what? I was just one man trapped in a cage with an army of monsters. Then through the cacophony of alarms and screams, I heard it, a scratching sound coming from the other side of the steel door. Slow at first, deliberate, then faster, more insistent. Something was out there, and it was coming for me. The scratching intensified, metal screeching against metal, sending shivers down my spine. Whatever was out there, it wanted in, badly. My eyes darted around the control room, searching for a weapon, anything. But the warden had been very clear. No firearms allowed inside the facility. Too risky, he had said, in the wrong hands. He didn't need to elaborate on what he considered the wrong hands. I grabbed the heavy fire axe mounted on the wall, its blade dull but reassuringly solid. My hands trembled as I hefted it, my heart pounding against my ribs like a drum. The scratching stopped. Silence. Heavy, pregnant, terrifying, then a thud. Something heavy hitting the door. The metal buckled inward, another thud and another. Each impact sent shockwaves through the room, echoing in the silence like the beat of a funeral drum. I knew that door wouldn't hold. Not for long. I had to get out. But where? The control room was my prison, a steel and concrete cage with no escape. The only way out was through the very door that was about to be torn down by whatever lurked on the other side. Panic surged through me, cold and clammy. I had to think, had to act. But my mind was a jumbled mess of fear and adrenaline. The monitors, still flickering erratically, offered no solutions, only glimpses of further chaos and carnage. The entire facility was a slaughterhouse, and I was next on the menu. Then I saw it, a ventilation shaft, high on the wall, almost hidden in the shadows. It wouldn't fit me, too small. But maybe it was enough. Hope, fragile but tenacious, flickered in the darkness. Grabbing a chair, I smashed the glass covering the vent, shards raining down on me. The air that wafted out was stale, thick with dust and something else, something metallic and foul. Blood? I didn't have time to hesitate. Another crash, louder this time, sent the door groaning inward. The creature was breaking through. Hauling myself up, ignoring the searing pain in my arms as I scraped against the metal edges, I squeezed into the vent. It was a tight fit, my chest constricted, darkness pressing down on me. The air was thick and suffocating, filled with the sounds of my own ragged breathing and the distant echoes of the carnage unfolding below. I could still hear the creature, its enraged roars echoing through the control room. It knew I was here somewhere in the darkness, hunting me. The ventilation shaft was a labyrinth, twisting and turning through the bowels of the prison. I crawled through the darkness, my clothes ripped, my skin scraped raw. Panic gnawed at me, fueled by the ever-present fear of the unknown. What if I got stuck? What if the creature found another way in? The screams, muffled but unmistakable, reached me even here. They were dying down there, one by one, picked off in the darkness. I couldn't let that happen to me. I had to keep moving, had to find a way out. The vent deposited me into a maintenance closet, a small, windowless room stacked high with cleaning supplies and spare parts. The stench of bleach and disinfectant hung heavy in the air, a stark contrast to the coppery tang of blood that permeated the rest of the facility. I collapsed on the floor, my chest heaving, my muscles screaming in protest. Silence. For a moment there was only silence, broken only by the pounding of my own heart. Then, through the thin walls, I heard it. Movement. Heavy footsteps, accompanied by the clinking of chains and the guttural growls that had become the soundtrack to my worst nightmare. They were close. Too close. Peeking through a crack in the door, my blood ran cold. It was Cell Block B, the section housing the most dangerous inmates, the ones even the warden spoke of in hushed whispers. And it was a scene of absolute carnage. The corridor was littered with bodies, torn and mangled beyond recognition. blood, a grotesque tapestry of crimson and black, painted the walls and floor. The air reeked of death and something else, something ancient and evil. But it was the creatures themselves that froze the blood in my veins. They were unlike anything I could have imagined, even in my wildest nightmares. Grotesque mockeries of life, twisted and mutated by some unseen force. Two of them, their forms illuminated by flickering emergency lights, were tearing into the remains of a guard, their guttural growls echoing in the otherwise silent corridor. I didn't dare breathe, didn't dare move a muscle. If they sensed me. I forced myself to look away from the carnage, my stomach churning. This was no longer a prison break, this was a massacre. And I was trapped in the middle of it. I had to get out. But every instinct screamed at me to stay hidden, to not attract attention. Crouching low, I edged along the wall, my back pressed against the cold concrete. The stench of death was overpowering, the silence broken only by the sickening crunch of bone. Each step was an exercise in controlled terror, my senses on high alert. I could feel their eyes on me, even though I couldn't see them. Their presence, heavy and malevolent, filled the corridor. Then I saw it. A shadow, darker than the surrounding darkness, moving silently at the edge of my vision. It wasn't one of the creatures I had seen before. This was something else. The shadow paused, its attention seemingly drawn to something further down the corridor. It was my chance, my one and only chance. Slipping past the maintenance closet, I risked a glance back. The shadow was gone. But the feeling of being watched, of being hunted, remained. I had to get out of this corridor. Had to find somewhere, anywhere to hide. My eyes darted around, searching for a way out, an escape route. And then I saw it. At the very end of the corridor, a single door stood ajar, a sliver of light emanating from within. Hope, flickering like a candle in the wind, surged through me. It was a long shot, suicide even. But what choice did I have? It was either that or stay here and become another victim in this nightmare. Taking a deep breath, I ran. The door creaked open, revealing a small, dusty office. Papers scattered, furniture overturned, as if someone had left in a hurry. A single flickering bulb drew me in like a moth to a flame. It was a beacon of hope in this nightmare. I slammed the door shut, the sound echoing. My hand trembled as I fumbled for the lock. It would have to do, for now I was safe, relatively safe. The air was thick with dust and decay. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. I was alive, for now. My eyes darted around, searching for any clue. A nameplate on the desk caught my eye. Dr. Emily Carter, Chief Research Officer, Research. What kind of research was being conducted in this hellhole? I shuddered to think. Drawers hung open, their contents spilled across the floor. Files, reports, photographs, all stamped with the same ominous logo. Penitentiary X. I picked up a photograph, my breath catching in my throat. It was a picture of a young woman, her smile bright, her eyes filled with intelligence and a hint of sadness. Dr. Carter. This must have been her office. Where was she now? Another victim claimed by this night of horrors? A faint scratching sound coming from the corner of the room sent a chill down my spine. It was followed by a low moan, barely audible, yet filled with an unspeakable sadness that sent shivers down my spine. I spun around, my heart pounding in my chest, the fire axe heavy in my grip. But there was nothing there. Just shadows dancing in the flickering light, or were they? Driven by a morbid curiosity, I cautiously approached the source of the sound. It was a ventilation duct, its cover ripped off. A wave of dizziness washed over me. The air seemed to crackle with a strange energy. It was then that I noticed it. A faint, musky odor, the same scent I had detected in the corridor, the shadow that had stalked me. It was stronger here. This was a lair. The scratching sound came again, followed by a low growl. Fear surged through me. I was not alone. Whatever had created this carnage was here, and it was close. I backed away slowly, my eyes fixed on the ventilation duct, my mind racing. What was I going to do? I was trapped, a fly caught in the web of a spider. The scratching grew more insistent, accompanied by the scraping of claws against metal. It was trying to get out. Then, with a deafening roar, the creature exploded out of the duct, its massive form filling the small office. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen, a grotesque parody of life, a nightmare given form. Its skin was a patchwork of scales and scarred flesh, stretched taut over bulging muscles. Its eyes, glowing with a malevolent intelligence, fixed on me, and a low growl rumbled deep within its chest. I was paralyzed with fear, my mind screaming at me to run, to fight, to do anything but stand there like a deer caught in the headlights. But I couldn't move. I was rooted to the spot, my body frozen in terror, my mind struggling to comprehend the sheer horror of what stood before me. The creature took a step towards me, its claws scraping against the floor, the sound like nails on a chalkboard. Saliva dripped from its jaws, a viscous fluid that sizzled and smoked as it hit the floor. I knew I had to do something, anything, to break free from the grip of fear that held me captive. My eyes darted around the room, searching for a weapon, an escape route, anything, and then I saw it. The fire extinguisher. It was mounted on the wall, next to the door, a beacon of hope in the face of unimaginable terror. With a surge of adrenaline, I lunged for it, my fingers closing around the cold metal. The creature roared again, its eyes burning into me, and lunged. I squeezed the handle, aiming the nozzle at its face, praying that this desperate act of defiance would be enough. The extinguisher hissed, spewing a cloud of white foam that momentarily obscured the creature from view. But I could still hear it, its enraged roars echoing through the small office. The foam dissipated, revealing the creature, momentarily blinded and disoriented. But it was still standing. It shook its head, its eyes glowing red with rage, and charged. I threw the empty extinguisher at it, the metal canister bouncing harmlessly off its thick hide. It was on me in an instant, its claws raking at my chest, tearing through my clothes, through flesh and bone. I screamed, the sound lost in the cacophony of the creature's roars and the sickening crunch of my own bones breaking. I was thrown against the wall, the air knocked out of me, pain exploding through my body. I lay there, crumpled on the floor, my vision blurring, my lifeblood staining the dusty floorboards. Through the haze of pain, I saw it looming over me, its eyes burning with a cold, predatory hunger. It was going to finish me off. I closed my eyes, accepting my fate. It was over. But then something unexpected happened. A high-pitched whine, growing louder by the second, cut through the creature's victory growl. It turned its head, momentarily distracted, its attention drawn to the source of the sound. I forced myself to look. It was coming from the ventilation duct, the same duct the creature had emerged from. The whine escalated into a deafening screech, the air shimmering with an unseen energy. And then a blinding flash of light. I shielded my eyes, the sound of the creature's enraged roar echoing in my ears. When I could see again, the office was empty. The creature was gone. All that remained was the lingering smell of ozone and a faint shimmering residue hanging in the air. I lay there, my body battered and broken, my mind reeling from the encounter. What had just happened? What was that light? And where had the creature gone? I struggled to my feet, my body screaming in protest, and stumbled towards the door. I had to get out of here, had to find somewhere safe. But as I reached for the handle, I realized with a sickening feeling that it wouldn't turn. The door was locked. I rattled the handle, but it wouldn't budge. I was trapped. Panic welled up inside me, threatening to overwhelm me. I was trapped in this office with no way out, no way to defend myself if the creature returned. The scratching sound started again, faint at first, then growing louder. It was coming from the ventilation duct. The creature was coming back. I was running out of time. Claustrophobia tightened its grip. Walls seemed to close in, the air growing thin and stale. The scratching at the vent intensified, a maddening counterpoint to the panicked beat of my own heart. Think, Harrigan, think. There had to be another way out. Every instinct screamed at me to smash a window, break down the door, anything to escape the confines of the office. But reason, a fragile thing in the face of such primal fear, reminded me that this was a maximum security prison. There wouldn't be any easy escapes. I tore through the office, overturning furniture, ripping down shelves, searching for another way out. A trapdoor, a hidden passage, anything, nothing. The scratching stopped. Silence. Even more terrifying than the incessant noise. It meant the creature had broken through. It was in the ventilation system somewhere above me, and it was only a matter of time before it found another way into the office. I had to think fast. My eyes fell on the ventilation duct, the metal twisted and torn where the creature had emerged. It was a long shot, suicide maybe, but it was the only option I had left. If I could climb inside, maybe, just maybe, I could navigate the ventilation system, find another way out of this nightmare. Taking a deep breath, steeling myself against the wave of nausea that threatened to overwhelm me, I grabbed the fire axe and began to widen the opening of the duct. Metal shrieked against metal, sending sparks flying into the darkness. The air, thick with the stench of the creature, seemed to grow colder, as if I were disturbing a tomb. Each clang of the axe echoed through the ventilation system, a beacon in the darkness announcing my presence to whatever lurked within. But I had no choice. It was this, or become another victim in the creature's gruesome game of cat and mouse. The opening was just wide enough for me to squeeze through. Taking a deep breath, I hoisted myself up, the metal biting into my hands. The air inside was stale and suffocating, filled with the dust of ages and the lingering stench of the creature. I gagged, fighting the urge to vomit, but forced myself to push onward. The duct was a tight fit, claustrophobia pressing down on me from all sides. I could feel the weight of the prison above me, hear the distant echoes of the carnage below. Every creak and groan of the metal sent shivers down my spine, my every sense on high alert for any sign of the creature. Time lost all meaning as I crawled through the darkness, the fire axe my only companion. The duct twisted and turned, a labyrinth designed to trap and torment. I was lost, but I had to keep moving. To stop was to surrender to the darkness, to the horrors that awaited me. The air grew noticeably colder, the metallic tang of blood replaced by a cloying sweetness that made my stomach churn. The duct opened into a larger chamber, the air thick with an unnatural luminescence. I peered cautiously over the edge. The chamber was unlike anything I'd ever seen, a grotesque cathedral dedicated to some ancient, unknowable evil. Strange symbols and markings, glowing with an eerie, otherworldly light, covered the walls. In the center of the chamber, a pulsating mass of flesh and bone, tentacles writhing, emitted a low, rhythmic hum that seemed to vibrate through my very bones. This was the source of the prison's corruption, the heart of the nightmare, and I was trapped inside it. A low growl, guttural and primal, echoed through the chamber, sending shivers down my spine. I didn't need to see it to know that I was no longer alone. The creature was here, somewhere in the darkness, its presence a palpable weight pressing down on me. I turned, my back against the cold metal of the duct, the fire axe raised in a futile attempt at defense. The creature emerged from the shadows, its eyes burning with a cold, predatory hunger. It was even more grotesque than I remembered, its flesh a tapestry of scars and mutations, its claws like razors glinting in the otherworldly light. "Come on, you bastard," I roared, my voice a mixture of fear and defiance. "Let's finish this." The creature hesitated, its head cocked to one side as if studying me, a low growl rumbling in its chest. For a moment our eyes locked, predator and prey, and in that moment I saw something flicker in its gaze, not fear, but something else, recognition, understanding, and then it lunged. The creature lunged, a blur of teeth and claws, and I barely had time to raise the fire axe in defense. The impact shuddered through my arms, the metal groaning under the monstrous force. I gritted my teeth, pushing back against the onslaught, adrenaline erasing the pain in my battered body. For a brief, terrifying moment, we were locked in a deadly embrace, the fate of the prison, perhaps the world, hanging in the balance. But the creature was stronger, faster, driven by an insatiable hunger. It slammed into me again, knocking me off balance. I stumbled back, my boots slipping on the slick floor, the fire axe falling from my grasp with a clatter that echoed through the chamber. Despair threatened to engulf me. I was unarmed, outmatched, and utterly alone in the heart of this nightmare. The creature moved in for the kill, a low growl rumbling in its chest, its eyes burning with a cold, predatory hunger. I closed my eyes, bracing for the inevitable. But the killing blow never came. Instead, a high-pitched whine, growing louder by the second, cut through the creature's victory growl. It turned its head, momentarily distracted, its attention drawn back to the ventilation duct. The same eerie, otherworldly light I had seen before pulsed from within the shaft, bathing the chamber in an unnatural glow. The creature roared, a sound filled with pain and fury, and retreated a few steps. It was my chance, my one and only chance. Scrambling back, I snatched up the discarded fire axe and ran, not towards the creature, but towards the source of the light, towards the ventilation duct, the only way out of this infernal chamber. The creature hesitated, its attention torn between the pulsing light and its escaped prey. The whine escalated into a deafening screech, the air shimmering with an unseen energy. It was now or never. Taking a deep breath, I leaped into the ventilation duct, the metal biting into my hands as I hauled myself up and into the darkness. The duct was even tighter than before, claustrophobia a living thing pressing down on me. But fear lent me strength, driving me forward through the darkness. Behind me, I could hear the creature's enraged roars echoing through the ventilation system. It was still hunting me. The air grew colder, fresher, and the creature's roars faded behind me. Was I finally escaping this nightmare? The duct deposited me into what appeared to be another maintenance closet, this one thankfully empty. I collapsed on the cold concrete floor, gasping for breath. I stepped out into the corridor, the fire axe still clutched in my hand. But the corridor was empty, silent. But where had I escaped to?